Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always ready to dive in.
Great. So today we're going to be unpacking Adam Sandler's journey to becoming a comedy legend.
Sounds fun.
And to guide us, we're tapping into his super insightful conversation with Joe Rogan.
Oh, I love that episode. Sandler's so candid about his influences
Yeah.
and, that whole roller coaster of a career that is being a comedian. It's,
Totally. He really opens up about those early days, doesn't shy away from the not so glamorous parts either.
yeah, like those first gigs. Gotta love
He
those.
actually pinpoints seeing Carol Leifer perform when he was, get this, 15 at the East Side Comedy Club as being a turning point.
Wow, 15. That's young.
Right. Like imagine being that age, catching a comedy set, and it just sparks something in you.
It's often those unexpected moments, those chance encounters that kind of shape our path.
Absolutely. But those first steps, as Sandler quickly learned, aren't always, shall we say, graceful.
Definitely not a walk in the park.
He talks about his very first gig at this place in Boston called Comedy Connection. Total bomb.
Oof, rough start.
And get this,
Yeah.
his dad was in the audience.
Oh, no, you're kidding. Talk about adding insult to
You
injury.
know, right? Most people would have crawled into a hole and sworn off stand-up forever after that.
For sure.
But not Sandler. He actually highlights this moment after that disastrous set, a moment that honestly reveals a lot about his character.
Oh, you mean the Kevin Meaney story?
You know it.
Classic.
Right. So Sandler, he's just bombed on stage,
Yeah.
right? Feels about 2 inches tall. And Meaney, who was already pretty established at that point,
Oh, yeah.
goes out of his way to encourage him, tells him to keep at it, that he's got something special.
It's amazing how those small gestures of support, especially when you're starting out and, let's be real, drowning in self-doubt, can have such a huge impact.
Totally agree. And it seems like that encouragement really stuck with Sandler.
Hmm.
So he bombs, gets this unexpected pep talk, and then fast forward a few years, he has another encounter with comedy, this time through the screen, that kind of blows his mind.
You're talking about the Sam Kinison HBO special.
Exactly, the one
Yeah.
from '86. Sandler talks about how watching that special was a game changer.
Oh, yeah, Kinison. He was something else.
Right, like completely raw, almost aggressive style, so different from anything Sandler had seen before.
Yeah, I can see how that would be eye-opening for an aspiring comedian.
Yeah.
Like, here's someone pushing boundaries, redefining what's acceptable humor. It's almost like it gives you permission to explore those uncharted territories of your own comedic voice.
Totally. And you can see that influence, that willingness to push the envelope in Sandler's own work later on.
Definitely.
But Kinnison's story wasn't just about inspiration, was it? There was a flip side that Sandler picked up on.
Yeah, the darker side of fame.
Yeah,
The what happens after you make it part that nobody really prepares you for.
right. Sandler actually saw Kinnison perform live years after that HBO special, and it was, in his words, a cautionary tale.
Yeah, I've heard other comedians say that too, like the raw energy that fueled those early performances, it seemed, I don't know, dimmed somehow.
Yeah.
Overshadowed by the years of hard living and the trappings of, success.
It's like he saw what could happen when that initial spark, that pure joy of performing, gets lost in the noise.
That's a good way to put it.
And that's something we'll see echo throughout Sandler's career, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like success isn't this finish line you cross. It's more like this balancing act, And for Sandler, that whole balancing act, well, it took a pretty wild turn when he landed that spot on SNL
Oh, yeah.
at 23.
Can you imagine?
That's insane, and he almost turned it down.
Yeah, he was laser focused on making it in movies.
Wow.
He even admitted that he didn't really watch SNL regularly back then.
Really?
Yeah, he was so set on movies, he wasn't even paying attention to the biggest comedy show around.
That's wild. Talk about a clear vision, though, right?
Totally. And think about who else was on SNL at that time. Farley, Spade, Rock, McDonald. It's like a who's who of comedy legends.
Right. What a room to be in.
I can't even imagine the dynamic in that writer's room.
The energy must have been electric.
Sandler talks about it being this incredible period of just pure creativity.
Yeah, and camaraderie, too.
Right, like a real sense of everybody being in it together.
Pushing each other to be funnier.
Exactly. But even surrounded by those guys, he still felt this drive to prove himself,
Oh, of course.
especially when he landed that lead role in Going Overboard.
Oh, yeah. The unsinkable Shy Moskovitz.
Wait, he got that after doing only 3 stand-up sets.
3. He tells this hilarious story about how these young filmmakers saw him perform at the Improv, and they just assumed he was this seasoned comic.
Why did they think that?
He had the confidence to go on last.
Ah!
Little did they know he was going last because nobody knew who he was.
He just went with it. That's amazing.
Total fake it till you make it.
Right. But he pulled it off.
And landed a leading role alongside Milton Berle, no less.
Oh, man. Speaking of Milton Berle, Sandler tells a story about him.
Does it involve the Milton Berle big package?
Maybe. Let's just say it's classic Sandler finding humor in the most unexpected places.
That's his gift, though, isn't it? Finding the funny
Right.
side of anything.
Totally. But even with these movie roles starting to happen that pull towards stand-up, it never really went away for him.
Yeah, it's always been there.
And then he joins the cast of News Radio,
Another great show.
surrounded by all these experienced actors like Phil Hartman.
Right.
And he talks about feeling like an imposter again.
Really?
Yeah, like he didn't quite belong there.
Wow, I never would have guessed.
He even said he hated acting lessons.
Interesting.
He just wanted to be himself, make people laugh, whether it was on stage or on set.
And thankfully for us, that love for stand-up, it never faded.
Nope. After a 20-year break, he found his way back to the stage.
Ready for a new chapter?
Exactly. But it wasn't just the allure of the stage lights that brought him back, was it? It's like those friends, they reminded him how much fun it was to just get up on stage and make people laugh.
Yeah, sometimes all it takes is that little push from your friends.
Totally. And it sounds like he really dove back in head first.
Oh, yeah.
He talks about trying out new material at these small clubs in LA.
The Comedy Store, the Improv.
Exactly. Bouncing ideas off friends, really honing that craft.
It's a process for sure.
He even mentions this place called the Laugh Factory.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that place.
They have this thing called the Premise Factory.
The what?
Premise Factory. It's wild.
What is it?
So they have this whiskey barrel on stage, right?
Right.
And it's filled with random notes from the audience.
Notes?
Yeah, like little scraps of paper.
Okay.
And the comedian picks one out at random,
Oh, wow.
and that becomes the premise for their bit.
You're kidding?
Nope. Could be anything. Why do socks disappear in the dryer? My grandma's dating a vampire. You name it.
That's amazing. Talk about thinking on your feet.
Right. What a workout for those comedic muscles.
I bet.
Yeah.
Forces you to find the humor in anything.
That's what it's all about, right? And speaking of finding the humor, Sandler and Rogan, they both seem to really admire Chris Rock's approach to comedy.
Oh, yeah. What do they say about him?
They talk about his fearlessness on stage,
Mm-hmm.
the way he handles hecklers,
Oh, yeah.
his ability to just refine material on the spot.
That's a skill?
It's like he's so present in the moment.
You can tell.
And both Sandler and Rogan, they acknowledge how seeing other great comedians perform live, it pushes them to up their own game.
Oh, for sure.
It's like that saying, iron sharpens iron, right?
Exactly. Being around that kind of talent, it makes you want to be better.
And throughout Sandler's journey, all the ups and downs, the questionable encounters on Milton Berle's boat,
We didn't forget about that.
there's this consistent thread of authenticity.
Yeah. He's always just been himself.
And it comes full circle with that story about him meeting a young Joe Rogan.
Oh, yeah, at the Comedy Store?
Mm-hmm.
What'd he say?
He remembers seeing Rogan and thinking, this guy's intense.
That sounds about right.
Like Rogan was all about pushing buttons, provoking a reaction,
Mm-hmm.
while Sandler's approach was always more character-driven, finding the humor in everyday life.
Two different paths,
What?
both successful in their own way.
Exactly. And it's a good reminder that there's no one right way to be funny.
Or to do anything, really.
Totally. Find your voice, hone your craft, and stay true to yourself.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive into the comedic mind of Adam Sandler.
That was fun. Learned a lot.
Me too.
Yes.
Always a good time digging into these conversations, seeing what makes these comedy legends tick.
Absolutely. Until next time.
Cheers to that. And to all of you listening out there, keep laughing, keep exploring, and keep diving deep into the things that make you tick.